Arrests for illegal immigrants are on the rise across the U.S. with over 7,000 instances just since October. And now we're learning about another frightening example. A Venezuelan migrant illegal in Chicago has been charged with robbing and sexually assaulting a woman on the University of Illinois Chicago campus. Now, this happened less than a month after nursing student Laken Riley was allegedly killed by a Venezuelan migrant on the University of Georgia's campus. Retired acting ICE director Tom Homan joins us now. Tom, so great to have you. Happy Easter to you. This is just such a troubling. It's not just this individual incident. I think this is a troubling time in general for vulnerable women. We're seeing it across the board that women are not feeling safe. And now we're adding illegal immigrants with these unvetted backgrounds who tend to be violent. What do you say about this? What are we going to do?
Well, first of all, let's remember, President Trump wasn't wrong 8 years ago when he says a lot of bad people come across that border. Look, we don't know who most of these people are. I was looking at the numbers this morning. 4.9 million people have been released in this country by the Biden administration. There's 1.9 known gotaways that we've got, plus we got 350,000 that flow in the country. That's over 7 million illegal aliens roaming the streets of this country, and we don't know who they are because we'll say, well, they're vetted. When we say they're vetted, that means we run them in criminal databases, but unless they've been arrested in the United States, we don't have criminal data from other countries. Number two, we run through terrorist databases. Unless they were encountered on a battlefield and did a retina scan, unless they're part of an ongoing terrorist investigation, we don't know who most terrorists in this country are. So the vetting is very poor, if done at all. So with 7 million people released in the United States, a big part of that is going to be criminals, gang members, people carrying fentanyl. This is a huge public safety crisis that this administration created. Yeah, and some of the vetting, I mean, they're happening, the home countries are either, unstable, they're enemy countries. We don't really have access to their data. Yeah. So how are we vetting them anyway? Some of them are failed states that these people are coming from. So also you mentioned in the pre-interview that we still haven't gotten to the bottom of the 100,000 children that are missing. And so I think about these women who are vulnerable. I think about these children that are missing and this party, the Democrat Party, who claims to be the party of compassion and the party that protects those who are vulnerable. You mentioned the attacks on females. Do you know that Doctors Without Borders did a study and said 31% of women who made that journey through use of cartels got sexually assaulted. 31% admitted to it. So it's just not women being attacked in this country. It's the women that are being attacked making this journey. And you're exactly right. Every time I testify, every time I go someplace where Democrats want to throw out all the Trump policy of zero tolerance led to family separations, 2,500 people were separated. That's because the parents were prosecuted, and we're trying to maybe if we prosecute them, maybe less women will be raped, maybe less children will die crossing the border. At the same time, they want to ignore that this administration released nearly 100,000 children that they can't find, because not only can we not do proper vetting of those entering the country illegally, they're not doing proper vetting of the people that they're releasing these children to. 100,000 children missing, and no one's doing an investigation. No one raising hell about it, but we should be raising hell about it. These are children. They're in forced labor. They're in forced sex slavery. They're in debt bondage. I know that 'cause I did this for 34 years, but nobody wants to talk about it. They want to keep talking about the terrible Trump policies.
Yeah, and that, by the way, that illegal migrant who assaulted and robbed this woman in Chicago and dragged her into this university, he had free housing. He was sheltered inside of a Chicago club. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they're doing. They're putting women and children and the citizens of these cities in really grave danger. It's such a sad story. It really makes mothers across the country who, I know this wasn't a student, but she was dragged into a university. So anyway, thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.